So I pretty much sat on trial for 9 hours saying I do not recall. And it was horrible, the things that were said about me on the internet.
Hello and welcome again. This is Robert Schein with Madison Evans. Hi, Madison.
Hi, Rob.
We are in episode number 5 in season 3. We're just rolling right through it. Today, I'm very excited. We're going to have a really exciting episode, kind of a lot of celebrity sizzle for us. So you're going to want to stay tuned. This is titled, Let's Not Spiral, Let's Make a Shift. And I think there's going to be a lot of great advice from our special guest today.
Yes, our special guest is Debbie Bennett, who is a renowned psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner and a certified addiction nurse. She has extensive experience and profound expertise in the field of mental health and addiction, and is the founder of Turning Point Nursing and Mend It Wellness. She has dedicated over 20 years to the advancement of psychiatric and addiction healthcare and has unwavering commitment to delivering compassionate and innovative care to a diverse range of clients, including celebrities.
A lot of celebrities and a lot of knowledge, and she's helped a lot of people along the way, and maybe she can help those in our audience as well. Who knows? But yeah, let's get right into it.
Yes.
So here we are with nurse practitioner Debbie Bennett. Debbie, welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me, guys.
This is exciting. We've had a lot of interesting, powerful, amazing guests before, and you're going to set the bar even higher.
Gosh.
We're really excited for you to be here and share some stories and provide some, good guidance for our audience. And at the end, I don't want to miss this where, what you're working on and how you can help people, because this is a very serious topic and you're, an expert in your field. But Debbie, why don't we go back to the very beginning here, and what brought you out to the desert, or what brought you into the world that you're in today?
Well, my sister moved here first, and
we all know Lori Crete, and Lori is amazing. She's been a wonderful guest in the past as well. And
Lori, the esthetician mentor.
Yes, she's amazing.
So yeah, she came out here, and I, early 20s, came out with a duffel bag and $300 to visit. And, like anyone, when they get to California, I was going to stay. I was moving. And my sister, being very type A, was like, okay, but you're not living with me. Mm-hmm. You want to stay, you need a job and a place to live in 3 weeks, so you're going back home. It's like, okay, how can I make this work? Because I'm the type B sister, kind of flow by the seat of my
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, how can I kill two birds with one stone? I'm going to research the wealthiest nanny agency, and I'm going to become a live-in nanny so I can have a place to live and
That's
make
fantastic.
some money.
Yeah, very smart.
So interviewed with celebrities, all of these crazy stories, ended up being hired and moved in with Brennan Phil Hartman. Do you remember who they were? He was...
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Those of you who don't know, Bren and Phil Hartman were married. She shot him, and the nanny found him.
Wow.
And I was the nanny 3 weeks before.
Oh, wow.
But I remember I was so excited. I got to move out of my sister's house. I was going to show her. I was going to make it here in L.A. And I moved in, and I was all excited. And Phil was on filming at the time, and he came home, and he looked at me, this little 23-year-old girl, and he's like, you are not raising my children. He wanted a granny nanny, and he fired me on the spot.
Oh, wow.
And I had to go crawling back to my sister going, I need to move back in. I thought it was over. I was going to have to move, back to Vermont. And then 3 weeks later, this happened. And I thought, oh my gosh, that could have been me. Like, this was somebody watching over me.
Yeah.
So continued on my little search to find the perfect nanny job, and got hired by this lady. She Brown University, super successful producer, single mom. And I took her job, and I lived in the guest house, which was really a shed in the backyard. Mm-hmm. And she was just somebody who believed in me. She was like, why are you being a nanny? Like, you should be doing so much more in your life. What do you want to do? And I guess I'll go to school to be a nurse. And she would hire babysitters when my school schedule would conflict with her schedule.
To support your schedule.
To support my schedule.
Wow.
And
wow.
so she
what
was
an angel.
Yeah, no, she came into, and she's still in my life. I mean, she's the little girl I nannied is now 21, a cop in Kansas City, which I would have never thought of that. But she's really the one who believed in me and pushed me to start my career.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
So then when I was in nursing school, my sister was a flight attendant, and this doctor came into first class on a flight, and he was with a really hot younger girl and a little boy, and all the flight attendants were wondering, they kind of had a bet going on in the cabin. Like, is this the nanny? Is this the girlfriend? Is this a daughter? So my sister had to, or wanted to, go start a conversation to kind of figure out.
Unlock the code.
Yes.
Yeah. Find out.
And turned out was his girlfriend, and that was his son. And he happened to be a pretty famous doctor in Beverly Hills.
Okay.
Who had, a very VIP concierge service, and he gave my sister his card and said, because she had said to start the conversation, like, oh, my sister's in nursing school, and he ended up giving her his card. Why, I don't know. I actually called the number.
That's crazy.
And I started in nursing school, going into his office every Friday, and between patients he would draw what was going on with the patient. And all of a sudden, nursing school was really easy to me, because since I was learning it in real time, and then when I'd read about it in a book, it already made sense.
That's awesome.
And he gave me my first gig, which put me on my path to helping high-profile people who suffer from addiction and mental health.
Wow. That's crazy. That's a crazy story just to get to where we are right now.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. So you've helped a lot of people in your career as well as A-list celebrities. I think one of the keys for the success of your career is your anonymity, right? Through all those that you've helped, even still to this day, right? It's completely locked down. So we're going to go in through the exclusive list at the end. So stay to the end. I'm going to tell you exactly who they are.
That's for the paid prescribers, right?
Yeah.
VIP list.
So
that's funny.
But no, not to make light of a heavy situation. I think that's part of the key is the discretion. But what kind of addictions or, tell me about your job.
Well, started out, I would say my specialty is addiction.
Okay.
I formed a team that would move into clients' homes to help get them off of drugs and alcohol, mainly who didn't want to go into rehab for confidentiality reasons.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we would kind of take that team, move it in. Sometimes we'd move them out of their home, put them in hotels. Other times, they just let go of the whole staff and we'd move into their home. And it was really just so they could heal in their own environment rather than being in a facility where there's somebody, they had a greater chance of outing them, or they just couldn't be vulnerable because they're all, they want their fans to believe that they're not, human, I guess,
Yeah.
that they don't have real struggles.
Yeah. What does it look like in terms of a treatment cycle? Depending on, is it drugs, alcohol? Is it like 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? Is everyone different? How does that?
Everyone's different. Everybody has a different journey. Every substance affects everybody differently. So there's really no general. I mean, my main responsibility was medication management. So I was always, the first one in handling the withdrawal symptoms. Alcohol generally 5 to 7 days. You're, medically stable. Opiates, benzos, a little bit longer. Then we'd always like to bring in a sober companion, a therapist, and kind of like titrate them back into independence.
Okay.
I know that we can't say specific names, but you work with A-list clients. Was that something that you had to get used to? And did you start out working with A-list clients, or were you working with just average people in the beginning?
The beginning of my career, I was at UCLA. I was in a dual diagnosis unit. I kind of worked on the VIP concierge, so I had a taste, but it's different when they come into a hospital environment versus you go into their homes. So it was definitely something I mean, remember when you were a little kid and you're at somebody's house and you're hungry and you just don't want to say like, when's dinner? And that's was the hardest thing that I had to get used to. You know, one of my first clients, celebrity, rock star. And I remember he's like, oh, we're going to Vegas for the weekend. And my friend's picking us up, and we go to the airport, and it's this private jet, and it lands, and it's an even bigger rock and roll star, like a legend. And I'm like, how did a little girl from Vermont end up on a private plane with these two huge stars going to Vegas for the weekend? But, you know, the downside is to that, I see them at their most vulnerable.
Right.
You know, I see them when they're struggling, when they're sick, and that really made me realize that, you know, everybody puts their pants on the same way. Everybody has the same struggles. And so I got over it very quickly and just realized that, you know, you have to treat the person, not who the person wants you to think they are. And that actually led to the clientele I work with. One of their main struggles was sometimes they didn't feel they were the person that everybody else thought they were. And they feel kind of like a facade, you know, they're bigger than life, but inside they're struggling so much. So there's definitely even more struggles when you are supposed to be bigger than life, but you're really hurting like everybody else.
Right. In that same vein, what advice do you give to celebrities or regular people? Because addiction, I feel like, is unfortunately such a big thing in our society, and most people have no idea how to handle it. What is some of the advice that you would give to people to be able to share with people they know struggling with it?
The first thing I always like to remind everybody is addiction is a disease. You know, so many people feel shame and guilt themselves or parents. What did I do wrong if it's my child? And, you know, none of us would feel this way if somebody you loved was diagnosed with cancer or diabetes. You know, it's a disease. So the first thing you have to do is realize that.
Right.
And then reach out for help and be vulnerable. And, you know, I get calls all the time. Like, I can't afford the VIP treatment. I can't afford, you know, the $150,000 rehabs. What do I do? There's help out there for anyone at any economical level. Call your insurance company, see what they cover, you know, reach out to your local support groups. If it's a loved one, get into Al-Anon and learn how to protect yourself while still helping the person, you know, that's suffering. Because when you love an addict, it's one of the hardest things because you want to control them. You want to, you know, be their cop, be their control, and you can't. They have to help themselves, but you can help them by setting healthy boundaries while helping yourself.
Got it. That's great advice.
So, you know, just looking in sort of the world of addiction, is it hereditary, environmental? Like, how some people are more prone to it. How does this like all play out? And how do you see a way out?
It's a combination of everything, and it really depends on who you talk to. You know, like every illness,
Sure.
every disease, I feel it's a sprinkle of all of the above. You know, if you have the genetics, know you have the genetics, you know, so don't even pick up the substance to begin with. But then there's also that high school jock who breaks his leg and gets started on opiates. Yeah. You know, and opiates are the scariest because they're so physically addicting so quickly. Alcohol, again, you can have two alcoholic parents, just don't drink. I mean, that's easier said than done, but you know you're at higher risk. You know, treating it is something that I've done now 25 years. And it's kind of been a train of thought, and this goes along with addiction and mental health. Medicate, medicate, medicate. And after seeing such a high relapse rate, both in addiction and in mental health, anxiety, depression, I'm in the process of changing the way that I help my clients.
Tell me more.
Almost at the end of completing a 2-year fellowship under this amazing doctor out of Boston. And do you know about functional medicine?
Heard about it. Don't know too much about it.
It's kind of more, you find the root cause rather than just treat the symptoms of any illness. And how that works with psychiatry and addiction is, we're all taught that serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine are happy, calming chemicals in our brain. And a lot of people believe if you suffer from mental health or addiction, it's your brain chemistry is off. So what do? You give meds to help your brain chemistry. But what functional psychiatry looks at is those chemicals, neurotransmitters, are actually 85 to 95% of serotonin is made in our stomach. Wow. 50% of dopamine made in our stomach. GABA, our calming chemical, made in our stomach. So if you have any inflammation, bacteria, mold toxicities, anything that's messing up your GI, you are not getting these chemicals to your brain. Mm-hmm. So now we're finding out that there's actual testing you can do to see, are you deficient in nutrients or amino acids that are affecting your production of your brain chemistry. We can actually run tests that there's the MTHFR. If you have a variant in that, you're more likely to have addiction tendencies. So again, for 16 years, I was trained. There's no labs, it's not like I feel like I have high blood pressure, so I'm going to check my blood pressure. Or I feel like I have a fever, I'm going to check. Now we actually are finding there are labs we can do. There's treatments that we can do through supplements, lifestyle, that can find the root cause and cure anxiety, depression, cravings, rather than just medicate the symptoms that come along with those diagnoses.
How are you doing that in your business moving forward?
So I'm running these specialty labs, and then it can show us if there's any nutritional deficiencies, amino acid deficiencies, and we create a roadmap of supplements, diet, exercise, stress reduction to actually replenish what our bodies are depleted of. And the results are amazing. People are coming off medications, one thing that's really hard in addiction is sobriety. Everybody thinks the detox is the hardest part. Mm-hmm. It's not. It's staying sober after the detox. And I feel one of the biggest reasons it's so hard is because we treat the mind. We're about community, being in AA, therapy, working through your trauma. But nobody's talking about what years of substance use does to our bodies internally. And if you don't fix what's been depleted, you're going to continue to almost be white knuckle your sobriety, because you're going to continue with anxiety. You're going to continue with depression. Blood sugar stabilization is one of the biggest part of cravings, whether it's sugar, alcohol. We need to fix all that in us, just so we can thrive, not just survive with these diagnoses.
That's really interesting.
That's amazing. This episode is brought to you by Schein Wealth Management, serving the Coachella Valley for the first 40 years and built for the next 40 years. And for more information about Schein, it's BlankyScheinWealthManagement.com. You were at the heart of a big celebrity trial recently. There was a lot of, it was in the news daily. In fact, I remember my brother years ago called me and said, "Hey, are you watching this trial on TV?" And I go, "No, dude, I'm at work. I don't have time for this." So he goes, "Just do me a favor, turn it on." So I turned it on and I got hooked. And then I went home that night and I talked to my kids at the kitchen table, my daughters. I have 3 daughters, as you know, and my son and my wife. And all of a sudden, all of them are talking about, oh my gosh, this trial. So then we all started to, so this was in the mainstream of America. And it was very captivating, a lot of drama and a lot of just, stuff that shouldn't have been out there, right? In the public itself. And you were in the heart of that. I did call my brother the next day and said, "Thanks for letting me catch me up on this one." So, but no, it was a very high profile situation. Tell us about that, how you in the midst of that, and how stressful was that?
Yeah, well, there was a lot of stress leading up to that. So, yes, I was Nurse Debbie in the Johnny Depp trial. I think it was 3 big trials with them. Their divorce, there was something else, and then the domestic violence, Me Too. The first 2, luckily, I was subpoenaed, and on my little journey that I did for 8 months, just jumping around the world in different countries, and they never caught me. So I was so excited. Then I came home, and I got subpoenaed by actually both Johnny and Amber. And they had wanted me to go to Virginia to be part of the trial, but I didn't. That was voluntarily. Like, I was subpoenaed, but they couldn't bring me out of state. So I had a 9-hour deposition. That was, very stressful. Years had gone by. And in those years, there were 2 very public people. You read about these stories, you talk about it with the people we worked with. I had my own vision. And I remember my attorney said to me, unless you remember every single detail of every single fact, you say, I do not recall. Because what they're looking is to have you slip up and try to, ruin your character or question your character. So I pretty much sat on trial for 9 hours saying, I do not recall. And it was horrible, the things that were said about me on the internet. The nurse with Alzheimer's, like, who would hire somebody who couldn't remember anything? And it was horrible. And then somebody turned me into the medical board, saying that I witnessed domestic violence and didn't report it, which made my license be under investigation for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Something that I had worked very hard for. I did not deserve this. I gave my heart and soul for years to help these people. And then somebody who didn't like what I had to say or thought I was supporting the wrong person came after me personally. It really made me go, like, do I want to continue this line of work? Mm-hmm. Giving up, because again, I moved in with clients. I gave up, a lot. And so I took a step back, and that's where I joined this mastermind group of these all amazing women. It was doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, who were just wanting a shift in career. At the time, I didn't know what I wanted. I just knew I wanted a shift. And I remember all these girls talking about functional medicine. And I was like, what is this? It was before chat, so I think I had to Google it myself. And I was like, wait a minute, this is really neat stuff. Mm-hmm. How could I tie this into addiction and psychiatry? Because there's not many people who practice what I practice. And these were all, doctors working with hormones or, IBS and, your typical things that you would think that come from the gut. But I'm like, there's something here. Mm-hmm. And I started researching and digging. And that's when I found this doctor out of Boston. And his story was really interesting. He was a psychiatrist on an eating disorder unit working with teenage girls. And when he realized when somebody's not eating properly and doesn't have the proper nutrition, how else does that show up as anxiety, as depression, as OCD, all these other mental health diagnoses. And we put it all together and realized how much our gut actually has to do with our mental health.
That's incredible.
Then I started looking into addiction. Then it all came into now my new practice that I'm opening up, that's functional psychiatry, really getting to the root cause and helping people just live happier lives, just not medicating away their symptoms.
That's really
incredible.
Cool.
I'm excited to see more of that. You could help a lot more people, in that path.
One aspect that you will, finance guy,
yeah.
People talk about, like, why isn't functional medicine or functional psychiatry more mainstream? If it's so great and it's helping all these people, why isn't it the way everybody practices medicine? I feel, and I'm not alone in this, is it's not mainstream because who does all the marketing for medicine? Big pharma.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The billion dollar industry.
Somebody said this to me one time. I was at a conference, and they basically said that go home and watch your TV tonight. 75% of the commercials that are on the air are from Big Pharma.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can't unsee it, like every episode. So that's who's funding this world right now of advertising, right?
Yep.
And all that marketing money.
In functional medicine, you don't need as many medications.
Right.
You're going to cure your symptoms rather than the insurance company having to, keep you in the system.
Right.
So it's not as big as it should be just because it's financially.
Well, I also we're also I love common sense, right? And I'm not a doctor and I don't pretend to be one on TV, but I guess I'm just going to throw this out there and you correct me if I'm wrong as it relates to, doesn't the United States spend more on Big Pharma than any country in the world, right? Any country in the world. Dollar for dollar, per capita, per person. Like, I don't know where we are on the health scale, but there are a lot of countries that have a lot healthier just civilizations, like people and cultures and societies that are just doing things where they're not dependent on all of this.
Mm-hmm. You just reminded me of two very interesting facts. So, and this was a couple years ago. It could have changed, but I remember I was doing some research, and the United States is about 5% of the world population. Yet we consume 80% of all the opiates manufactured.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
It's crazy. And then that was one fact. And then during training under this doctor out of Boston, he really looks at like the natural supplements. And there's there's a couple different kinds, but there's lithium orotate and lithium, another one that starts with a C, which is your lithium in medications. Like you hear that, with people with mental health, schizophrenics, bipolar. Yeah. Lithium is kind of a very popular medication known for mood stabilization. Well, lithium orotate is one of our natural elements. And in the little element chart, remember we all learned about, the element weight of lithium is 6.94. It was rounded up to 7, and it was put into a soda called 7-Up. And it's because lithium would up your mood.
No way.
An element found in our soil. So that's how 7-Up got its name.
That's crazy.
And the research actually shows in the countries that have more lithium in their soil or even in the water. I mean, here we filter everything. Mm-hmm. In the countries that have more organic and more lithium in their soil have less depression and suicide rates.
Wow,
and that's over the counter. We should all be taking lithium orotate.
So, interesting.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Are there any other supplements that you think on average people are deficient in?
A lot of us are deficient in magnesium. Everybody should be taking magnesium. And I also think everybody should be taking glutathione. It detoxes our liver. So whether you are a social drinker, or, we all put toxins in our body, glutathione under the tongue every morning.
Okay.
Is that in Buzz Buddy?
It probably is in Buzz Buddy, actually. Yeah. It's a great detoxer for our livers. With that being said, a little plug-in for myself right now. I have a blog, and this is kind of what we do. I pick out a fun topic every week. I talk about it and then give you some protocols or supplements that go along. This week we're talking about poop. Last week we talked about your toxic trait, joking around. And I admitted to the world that I like to look over everybody's shoulders and read their text messages, whether I know them or not, and how that's a dopamine rush for me.
Oh, really?
And I didn't, so it's kind of playful. We talk about little silly things again, the other night I had friends over, and no matter what conversation we went to, it came back to poop. Somebody's constipated because they're on GLP-1s. Somebody went on a vacation and got tired. It's like, we are our parents now.
Yeah.
But, so what supplements do we need to make our poop regular? So
it's all there. We're going to have to play catch up on that one. So how do we find this? How do we find you?
If you go onto Substack, which is a very well-known blog, the name of my blog is Mend the Mind.
Okay.
So, Debbie, you've helped so many people, and I think you've also, removed the veil of, the stigma the society puts on of like addiction and everything. And really, our job here is to have a quality conversation with a subject matter expert that has the ability to show the art of self-care in terms of one of my 7 keys, and really share that with our audience that, if you need help, there's somebody here that can help you. If you know of somebody, we've got somebody here that can help you, or just, continue to follow your great work moving forward. Cause that's, it's not only exciting of your 25 years experience that you shared. I think you could share a heck of a lot more with us, when we have more time, and we definitely want you back. But yeah, we're just really impressed, and I think we're blessed to have you in this world of doing great work for all the right reasons.
Well, thank you. I've become very passionate when I talk about it, and I'd really hope to, revolutionize recovery, both in mental health and you, by just what you said, it's part of life. It's nobody's fault. And there's ways that we really can make differences rather than just medicating. So thank you for having me. And, it's my journey to get the word out, and this is part of the process, you allowing me to be here and hopefully doing so.
Well, thank you. And whether it's your health and wellness or even your finance, everyone's going through something financially speaking, or even in your health and wellness journey. So it's, the whole key here is just every day is a new day. Why not be, one day be day one moving forward, and just takes a start, and we all can do it, but we're going to do it together as a community. So thanks, Madison. Thanks, Debbie.
All right. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Madison.
Of course. Thanks for joining us.
Madison, I really think we didn't have enough time with Debbie today. We could go on for hours. We're going to have her back because there's so many more stories. I know she has more stories. There's a lot more that we're just going to have to uncover in the future. But what we were just exposed to today was, impactful, a lot of obviously serious issues. But Debbie's a pro, and she had the ability to help a lot of people, and she's going to help a lot more people moving forward. There's no doubt. And she's a true professional.
Yeah, addiction is unfortunately very prevalent in our society, so I think this episode will provide a lot of knowledge to people to help people in their families or communities in general.
One of the components to the 7 keys to financial wellness is self-care, right? Taking time for yourself, taking time for your friends or family, and self-awareness. And the addiction component is part of taking care of yourself. By just asking for help, or getting some help, or going to a friend or family member, and they can hopefully seek support for you wherever you need. But self-care is a critical component to one of the 7 keys to financial wellness. Thank you for tuning in. This is a very serious subject and serious topic. And if it's you or somebody that we're going to put up some information for you to find some help. And please take advantage of that if you are in a person of need.
And as we always do, we're going to end the episode with 2 quotes. The first is by Robert Downey Jr., and it reads, "Remember that just because you hit bottom doesn't mean you have to stay there." And our second quote is by Tess Callahan. "Addiction is just a way of trying to get something else, something bigger. Call it transcendence if you want, but it's like a rat in a maze. We all want the same thing. We all have this hole. The thing you want offers relief, but it's a trap." Thank you all again for listening. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone you think would find it helpful. And stay tuned for our next episode in Season 3.
This podcast is brought to you by David Field Producer. It is produced and directed by David Field and Kristen George. And it's mix, edit, and socials by Kristen George. Schein Wealth Management is a group of investment professionals registered with Hightower Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC, and with Hightower Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Securities are offered through Hightower Securities, LLC. Advisory services are offered through Hightower Advisors, LLC. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities. No investment process is free of risk, and there is no guarantee that the investment process or the investment opportunities referenced herein will be profitable. Past performance is not indicative of current or future performance and is not a guarantee. The investment opportunities referenced herein may not be suitable for all investors. All data and information referenced herein are from sources believed to be reliable. Any opinions, news, research, analysis, prices, or other information contained in this research is provided as general market commentary. It does not constitute investment advice. Schein Wealth Management and Hightower shall not in any way be liable for claims and make no expressed or implied representations or warranties as to the accuracy or completeness of the data and other information, or for statements or errors contained in or omissions from the obtained data and information referenced herein. The data and information are provided as of the date referenced. Such data and information are subject to change without notice. This document was created for informational purposes only only. The opinions expressed are solely those of Schein Wealth Management and do not represent those of Hightower Advisors, LLC, or any of its affiliates.